Hello, it's me, and thought it would be kind of fun to go through this 5-layer hexagonal dipyramidal puzzle. This goes very nicely with the rest of the clan. So you remember the infamous 4x4 version. I'll tell you that this is a lot more robust. This is much better put together. As you recall, this one had a tendency to pop, even shatter. I mean, once I lubricated it and once I kind of made a little bit of, I don't want to say modifications, it was able to perform pretty well. But this comes from a V-cube, I believe, a V-cube modification, and it's really stable. You recall the 3x3 version as well. This one is also very stable. So this is made by Rafael Gulluni, who is the HD hexagonal dipyramidal master. He designs a lot of fantastic modifications, not just of these, but other types of puzzle modifications. The other things that he's done is, you remember the HD axis cube? This is this over here. He's also designed this 2x2 version. This is version 1. Version 2 is coming out. He wasn't quite as happy about the gaps that were there, so that's that I'm going to be getting shortly as well. And he also did this. Now, if I didn't like the commercial 4x4, this is the crazy 4x4 version, and it actually functions as a crazy 4-layer hexagonal dipyramid. And then, as you can see, it moves. This is basically from a 4-layer, the 4x4 supercube version 1, I believe. So yeah, it completes the collection pretty well here. Might be hard to see with all the camera. 5, 4, 3, another 4, another variation here, and a 2. So there you have it. So anyway, this is basically 5x5 supercube. It really functions exactly as that. You've got the centers here. So here's the centers. You can see these are all centers that surround it as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just looking at how it's structured, you can see at the opposite end are centers that have the large colors of the false sides on abutting each side, and that's surrounded by this center over here, which has the small colors as well. You got some tiny pieces here. You've got tiny corners, but just to get perspective, these are the centers, edge, edge, edge. And this is the edge over here, and there's different types of edges that you're going to find. These 3 over here, and these 3 constitute edges as well. So it's kind of challenging to line these up. 1, 2, 3, edge. This is a corner with 6 colors, actually, 6 different colors. These are edges here, corner, edges here, corner, and then edges here. So, you know, it's some more brain-bending perspective issues, but the movement is excellent, and it's a great addition to any collection. We'll just kind of walk through some of the scrambling here. Being a modification, it is a shapeshifter, and as this type of shapeshifting, as you recall, is not the kind that obliterates the face. It's the kind of shapeshifting that just changes the orientation a little bit, but a corner is a corner, a center is a center. Now, usually when doing these, there is something of a learning curve, which means you have to kind of figure out how it moves a little bit first. But the more I start to scramble it, the more the hexagonal component of it starts to come out. And it's a cute little puzzle. I mean, it's, you know, it starts to look more like the cube that it came from as I'm doing this, as we're starting to lose the hexagonal dipyramidal structure a little bit. So I'm going to keep scrambling it, but the movement is excellent. And every time I use this, the word that comes to mind is cute. It's such a cute puzzle. You know, it's small, it's compact, and it's an interesting expansion on the supercube concept, because it's not just the colors, but it's the shapes. And this shape is very interesting. You see these kind of smooth, curvy shapes over here, very artistic looking. This is just like with Trafim's creations, this starts to resemble as much art as puzzle, which is something that I really enjoy about these. As a collector, there's an aesthetic feature, quality about these puzzles that make it very appealing to collectors, and that even if I don't solve them a lot, just seeing them and, you know, playing around with them every so often is still still very nice. Becomes more like a work of art. So, enough philosophizing. Back to the scramble. Abracadabra. Okay, and there it is. So, like I said, I really like this puzzle. It's very compact, very portable, very stable. So, it's a good one. Okay, so to start this, to start off the solve, why don't we stick with the greens? So you can see all of our centers. I mean, this is where all the centers belong: edge, edge, corner, corner, corner. Again, this is as opposed to the cuboid shape-shifting where it's hard to discern a specific shape. You've got extensions coming off. You've got it's a different type of shape-shifting. But at least here we have something of a almost like a cubic perspective that we can take with this. Now, admittedly, I don't like to study puzzles like this too much before getting started on the solve. It makes it more of a challenge. So how is this going to be coordinated? Now, the other thing to bear in mind is this is a 5-layer. So one of the bits of complexity was taken out in that I know where my centers are supposed to be. That's as opposed to the 4-layer version where I didn't know. I had to literally invent it and use these sides to dictate where they're supposed to be. But here, I don't need to do that. I know pink is going to be over here. So let's see how we're going to navigate this. What's supposed to be where? Well, here's a green. This green is going to come up over here and is going to correlate with the red center. But this red color here, these are false centers, or false sides over here. So let's move these in conjunction with each other, and then they're going to come up to the green side over here. So like I say, kind of a learning curve that has to happen with how these things fit together. And what I'm doing is I'm just seeing how I can move these guys into place so that they make sense. Okay, so we like this. You see how that fits together over here. So now let's move this up to the green side. Okay. Now the question is, well, is it supposed to be here or is it supposed to be elsewhere? Which center does this go between? And the answer is it's whatever center also shares a red color. I see that the orange is here that has a red, so this, I suspect, is going to come over here. This green and orange is going to be somewhere in this configuration because here's the orange, I keep saying yellow rather. Here's the yellow center, it's got the red over here, so that means this must belong over here too. So we're kind of forging out the red side. You can see that this corner suggests that as well: green, red, and orange. Okay, so that's kind of fun. We can keep going with that. If we wanted to, we can maybe even move this down here and move this across here just to kind of gain that perspective. You can see the red is starting to emerge over there. Here's the green and blue, so where's that going to be at? Well, what shares the light blue? And here's this blue. This dark blue shares the light blue, which means this must be over here or over here somewhere. So what I will do is I will move this layer like so, just to kind of put it in position. So this probably shares position with this, so this probably belongs up over here, and that's where I'm going to move it to. Move it down here, here. So I really enjoy this kind of jigsaw puzzle-like aspect of what I'm doing here. Like so, and like so. And now finally maybe this can slide into here, as I think we've come to a point with these sides, these false sides. Just a really fun puzzle to play around with. Turn and turn. Alright, so what do we think? Not bad? For now. Again, I purposely didn't memorize the exact configuration just so that I can kind of challenge myself by putting some things in here. So now it's just a matter of finding the other ones. Here's a green and a white. There appears to be blue and a white, so this might come over to here to match up with the dark blue. So move this here so that this can slide in over here. See how that works. See if we like it. Which leaves one more left over, which we'll say is this one. Turn, turn, turn. Okay. Now, do we like this? Does this make sense? Well, I could always look at the center of the 4x4 version to see if things make sense. As you can see, in this case, we've got the point over here and the point over here, which seems to be pointing towards a solid color. On this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, so you see it's pointing towards a solid color over here. And it seems to be doing the same thing. So if I had to look at the organization, I see that we have a center with a small colored edge over here, no colored edge over here, which these two are pointing towards. Does it make consistent sense? Well, yeah, we know that the red one is shared by the yellow, the light blue is shared by the green, and a blue is shared by a white, which is potentially over here. So let's just keep going with this, and let's see what emerges. By the way, if anyone wants me to do a demonstration / tutorial on this guy over here, the super version of the hexagonal dipyramid, let me know, and I'm more than happy to do that. So let me know if that's what you want, and I will do it. So continuing with this, I got to get this guy in here, so I'll use it with the same technique that I've been talking about. This to here. Bang, turn it here, move the center here, move this here, pow, splat, kerplop. Now I'm getting there. Now I need to do the final green, boom, bang, pow, splat, plunk, and plop. Alright, good. So now we're down to the last two centers of a supercube such as this. So, how best to do this? Well, when approaching the last two centers of a supercube, we want to kind of isolate out the edge portions of the middle and the corner portions of the middle. Because the algorithms are going to be much like we would do with a 3x3 supercube. When you look at it, it's kind of like a 3x3 organization. Now I've been through this with a 5-layer supercube, which is this guy over here. It's really a similar kind of a concept. The main difference is that not all of these pieces are the same. Notice all of these have very specific orientations. Not so with this. This could be here, this could be here. So in some ways it kind of makes it look a little easier. You know, I might as well put the right backdrop here. Okay, so that it's properly draped in the right family portrait. Hopefully that's not too distracting. But in any case, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure all the edges are where they need to be on both sides before doing the corners on both sides. So I'm going to turn this over here because this edge is supposed to be here. This edge might as well be here. This edge could be here as well. And this edge is going to be shared with the white, and the reason why I say that, with the blue, because you got the white here and the white here. So this belongs actually over here. So I'm just going to put that in. And I'm going to do it with that regular technique. Brings us here, turn, move it out from the center, turn this here, move it in, move it here, and move it out. Okay, so that cleanly puts that where we want it to be, and it doesn't really change the orientation of these guys. Now, the way that I'm doing it is, maybe that is kind of distracting back there, but the way that I'm doing it, this is how I like to go about it, but this is more to open up the discussion too. If there's any more efficient ways that people can think of how to do this, by all means, post comments, let me know, and you know, anything to help this all become more efficient. But anyway, this is fine, this is all in. So now I'm going to focus on the center, on the edges over here. Now it just might automatically be placed by magic or by coincidence. So if we say this is where it's supposed to be, how about this? Well, this guy is supposed to be here, and that's all. Then these two can be anywhere they want. This is supposed to be here, this should be here, and we can say, well, then this is where it needs to be. But I'm not going to say that because if you recall, there is a way of doing it to where you could have 1 that's in and 3 that's out, or 2 that's in and 2 that's out. I can refer you to the tutorials on these where I talked about that, or I'd be more than happy to revisit that if it wasn't clear the first time around, as there's kind of a learning curve in terms of putting these things together. But the simplest scenario was when one of these were in and 3 were out, because then I have an algorithm to flip these around. If 2 are in and 2 are out, like if I were to say this is in, this is out, and this is in, and these 2 are in, then we did have a way of cleanly flipping these 2. But because these 2 are equivalent, I can just do it an easier way, which is basically to say that this is in, this is out, obviously this is out, but I'm going to say that this is out as well, because although this can be here, I'm going to say, well, no, this one is supposed to be here, and this one is supposed to be here, if that makes sense. So I can view it from the standpoint that these 2 are out. This should be here, this should be here, and this should be here, as opposed to this should be here, this should be here, and this stays here. So that's the benefit of this particular configuration. And to turn that around, it's the same thing as putting in the edges of a Rubik's Cube, of a 3x3, orienting the edges, where this algorithm will keep this in front of us, and this won't change, and these will rotate. And that's going to be R, defining this as an R, U, RI, U, R, 2U, RI. So that shouldn't touch these. These will stay the same. This is good, now this is good, and these are good as well. So basically all of my corners, all of my edges rather, the edges of my center are in. Now the corners, how are we going to do that? So this is going to be making use of a corner algorithm, the same corner algorithm that we did with the 3x3. You've seen us do this with all other types of supercubes, where we do the U, R, UI, Li, U, Ri, Ui, L. Only what I'm going to define as R and L is just the middle segment. And I'm going to skip the first U, but it's the same thing, and it basically swaps these guys around. What it's going to do is it's going to move this to here, and this to here. In 6-layer, 7-layer versions, it gets a lot more fun, because you saw that with a hexaphobic and the 7-layer megamorphings. So this is just standard 5-layer stuff. So with these last layers now, last 2 centers, we've got it down to these 2 that need to be swapped. Everything else is in, so how are we going to do that? Well, the problem with swapping these 2 is I've got a way of doing it, but what it'll necessarily do is it'll cause all of these guys to shift. So this is going to rotate kind of in a clockwise way, which is going to get it off center of these edge areas of the center, so to speak. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and put this in by the usual way that I do this, running into a problem that I never quite ran into with this guy for some reason. But do run into it with this. So I hold it at the side, and we're going to just do a technique where basically I'm going to take this down, move it here, then it's got to move into here. So I'm going to use that algorithm that flips that around. So forward, forward, back, back, bang, bang, pow, slam. So now we took the piece from here and moved it down. Now I got to take this and move it up to here. So all that means is I'm going to turn this here. Now bear in mind, the one that was here got shifted to here. This is going to shift over to here, and this is going to come up to this place over here. So it's going to replace that. This is going to then move down to here. So now the next step would have been to put this up to here, which means turning this over here and turning this here. So the end result is this will come here, this will come here, and this will come here, which is just fine for this side. But what I have done is basically all of these are going to be, all these corners are going to be rotated relative to the edge pieces here in a clockwise way. So here's what I mean by that. So, oh joy, we got this in. Uh-oh, this got kind of skewed around. Now, I didn't have to worry about that in the 4x4 because they didn't have these that had to be matched up with this, and these were done fairly independently. But in any case, if I move it here for perspective, this went over here, this one went over here, this ended up over here, and the one that should be here ended up here. So what are we going to do about that? Well, what we could do is just move these corners, these edges rather. and move these edges until they're in the proper place in conjunction with where they're supposed to be, just kind of skew them a little bit. Now when I do that, it's going to kind of reset things because it is going to take some of these corners out. But we'll just say that we don't like these corners, these edges rather, to be in the situation that they're in. So if only we had a way of taking this, moving it to here, this, moving it to here, this, moving it to here, and taking this and moving it to here. Well, I'm going to make use of the fact that I've got two that are perfectly happy to be interchangeable with each other. So if I'm going to say this belongs here, this belongs here, and this belongs here, and this belongs here, I can say, well, this is already here. It's already here because it looks exactly like this. So I'm going to move this down here with the understanding that all that has to happen is this will stay where it is, and these guys are going to rotate. So I'm going to do the algorithm until I see this in front of me over here. It's going to mess these up, but that's okay. It's kind of reconfigured at that point. So I'm going to do that R-U-R-I maneuver. R-U-R-I-U, R-to-U, R-I. That's not there yet, so we do it again. R-U, R-I-U, R-to-U, R-I, and for better or for worse, there it is. So these have actually been flipped to the areas that we think it's supposed to be. Now notice we did skew these corners, but that's okay for now. We're going to find a way to get all those back in. So I'm going to turn this upside down over here now, because what this algorithm is going to do is it's going to only cycle this one around while I'm trying to cycle these back. So this will be the last one that I'll put in, which will be over here. So the first step is, where is this supposed to go? Well, if this is the center here and this is here, then this is supposed to be deposited right over here. So I'm just going to turn this like thus, and this will end up here, this will end up here, and this will end up over there. So now this is where it needs to be. Where does this one need to go? Well, this needs to go over here. And I don't want to mess this one up that I just did. So I'm going to move this to here. This will move down to here, this will move here, and this will be up here to be placed later. So there that is. Now this guy needs to come over here. What will happen here is this is going to be taken out, but this will be brought to here, this will be brought to here, and this will be brought up over here, which just leaves these to be cycled. So I'm going to kind of get one whole side over here. Okay, now this is kind of what I wanted. This, I only have one into here that needs to come in, and these, I have two that need to be coordinated appropriately. So I'm going to hold this over here, and now the next move, I'm going to be depositing this to here, which is where it wants to be. This will go here, which is where it wants to be, and this will come over here. So it's been recalibrated, and hopefully this will work. So one more round of this algorithm. Bang. Zoom. Pow. And splat. And lo and behold, it's done. But in any case, let's go ahead and match all of our centers up. I don't have to worry about bizarre parities or things not seeming to work out or strange corner placement issues. Not a problem with this. The last two centers are problem enough. Okay, so all these are coordinated right. The next part is, of course, edge pairing.